Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the horror film The Lodge. Now, for me, when this film got trailers that came out sometime around 2019, it looked really intriguing. It definitely had one of the better horror trailers out there for 2019. It was something that I was consistently keeping my eye on, waiting for it to come out because I really wanted to check it out. Near the end of 2019, it got released overseas, but it didn't quite ever hit it back to the US. It finally got released in the US around February, but then, of course, the pandemic happened, and it didn't get a wide release. It only got released in, small areas, so it never really reached where I'm at. But then they finally put it out on Hulu, and so I'm just now figuring out that it was just there. It's probably been out for a couple months now, but I just now realized that it was on Hulu, so I decided to check it out, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and pop into the review for The Lodge. Basically, the plot of The Lodge is we kind of follow this family. You got Richard Armitage. He plays Richard. He's the father. Many people will know him as Thorin from the Hobbit series. His wife, Alicia Silverstone, she plays Laura, and then their two kids, Riley, Jaden Martell plays Aiden, which people will know him from the It films and Knives Out. And then Leah McHugh, who plays Mia. This is kind of relatively one of her first films, but she's going to be in the Eternals at the end of the year or early next year, depending on whether it got pushed back because of the pandemic. And they're basically going through a tough time because obviously Richard and Laura are going to be going through a divorce. A tragic thing happens to someone in the family, and then we fast forward ahead 6 months. Basically, Richard has been dating this woman named Grace, played by Riley Cano. Many people know her from Mad Max Fury Road. And basically, it's around Christmas time now, and Richard has a lodge, and he basically wants Grace, Aiden, and Mia to all basically go to the lodge together to kind of celebrate Christmas and really start to kind of connect, because he's going to ask Grace to marry him. But while they're up there, he has to go to the city for a few days and kind of thinks that the time alone with Grace, Aiden, and Mia will bring them closer together. But thus stuff happens while he is away, and that is really where the thick of the film comes in, is Grace, Mia, and Aiden working together or not working together to figure out what is going on and trying to survive up until Richard eventually comes back. And that's basically what The Lodge is about. Now, for me, like I said, when this movie got trailers for it got released, I was actually real excited to see this film. It really looks suspenseful and one of those real make you think kind of horror films. Ultimately, that didn't happen. This film, to me, I read the review. I saw the reviews. I didn't read any because I tried to not let them mess with me. But Rotten Tomato scores relatively high on this film. Certain people that I follow, such as Perry Nemiroff, Haley Fouch, they were really, really positive about this movie. So I really got excited going into this. But ultimately, this movie is a bore to get through. First off, they like to just put up creepy imagery just to kind of make you feel creepy. I will say the first 5 minutes of the film really sets a precedent for how the film should go. Ultimately, it just doesn't go that way. And in an age where we're in right now, where we're not in a movie theater and we're at home, where we have cell phones, laptops, tablets, all this stuff that can distract you watching a movie, you really need a film to really grab a hold of you and make you want to focus on it and not all the distractions that you have in your home, where if you're in a movie theater, you should just be focused on the screen and not on your cell phone or anything like that. But at least when you're in a movie theater, it's just you and the screen. You got nothing to distract you. But when you're at home, you got all this stuff there. And frankly, with this film, I was fighting every urge in my being to not look at my laptop or my phone because, frankly, I was bored. This movie, it takes about, outside of just showing creepy still shots of normal things, but just wow, you're really leering on this one object for way too long. That's kind of creepy. Nothing happens for the first hour of the film, and then finally something happens, and you start to lean towards, oh, it's going to be this. That'll be kind of cool to see how they do it. Or, oh, it's going to be this. That'll be really cool how that's going to happen. And ultimately, it ends up being none of that stuff. And you kind of get you kind of get told what's going on, but it doesn't add up with the way the rest of the story is going. And ultimately, it just kind of falls apart on itself. And then we get to the inevitable end, and you just don't care. I mean, you want to care about Mia and Aiden, the two kids, but let's face it, they're little assholes the whole film. And they're not likable. There's no reason to like the kids. Richard, the father, I mean, he's fine, but he's not in the movie long enough for you to really build a relationship with. You're kind of focused on following Grace. And Grace has a very troubled past, which you obviously find out in the film. But that doesn't mean that should put her in a negative space in terms of how you feel towards that character, which you don't until, halfway through the film. But it's one of those things where it's like, this character's trying to do what she can, which obviously in a real life situation, this is something that a lot of females or even males, for that matter, have to do when they start to date a parent of divorce with kids, is having to deal with not being the mother or the father and trying to get the kids to like you and stuff like that. Obviously, they don't have to go to the extent of what this film does, but it's just, it gets to a certain point where, I mean, Grace, she's a nice enough character, but she's also not a character that you care enough about to really care about any of the well-being of any of the people in this film, because the kids definitely aren't likable. Richard's gone for pretty much the entire film, and Grace is at the bare bones of likability, because you're not given enough time with these characters to, I mean, you get plenty of time with the characters, but you don't get enough time with the characters to grow a like to them. They're just kind of, here they are in the situation, and then they just have to adapt to it, but you're not given any real good scenes that kind of make you go, oh, I like this character, or, oh, I'm rooting for this character or this character to survive or not have anything bad happen to them. Honestly, it's just you're just kind of watching it and going through the motions, but not a whole lot is happening. Some creepy things happen, but none of it gets explained. Certain things happen in the film that you're hoping that they're going to touch back on. Nothing happens. You get creepy sounds, you get creepy noises, you get all this stuff, but it matters to nothing. Except for, and I can't, except for this one thing, which I can't say without being spoilery. But ultimately, when we get to the end of the film and we see what the actual film ends up being, and we go to the credits, and I literally just felt like I wasted an hour and 45 minutes of my time. Never once going through this film outside of the first 5 minutes did I ever get like, oh, or really just kind of involved into the film outside of the first 5 minutes. And ultimately, like I said, it just fails. And it really bums me out, because this movie looked so good and had such promise, and I heard such great things, but it's just nothing. It's boring. It feels like a 3-hour film, and it's only an hour 45. And like I said, the characters aren't necessarily likable enough to the point that you want to root for them to survive or make it out of the situation that they're in. And so ultimately, to me, The Lodge is a failure. It's a movie that if you watch at home, you're going to have a hard time not trying to look at your phone or your laptop just to have some sort of stimulation, because there's barely anything going on in the film that you're watching. So going to recommendations, I definitely will not recommend The Lodge. There are better movies out there that you could watch or rewatch 100 times over before I recommend watching this film. This is definitely one of the worst films of 2020 that I've seen so far. So yeah, I definitely can't recommend this film. And if you guys were hoping for a good review like I was, I'm sorry I couldn't give that to you. Going to my review score, I mean, I don't want to give it like a 0, because I mean, like, the performances were fine. I have nothing against the performances. All 5 characters did a solid job. It's just that the story is just kind of dull and boring. There's nothing to it. So none of the performances are bad. They're all fine for what they're doing. They're all doing what they're supposed to do. It's just that the film is nothing. So I mean, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10 in terms of a score because I mean, at least for the performances, they deserved some recognition, especially Riley Cano for. I know I'm probably saying her name wrong, but she plays Grace. She did solid. Like I said, Jaden Martell, he's good in it as well. Like everyone's fine. But the movie's just a complete and utter waste of time for me personally. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. I would say I hope you guys enjoy this review, but this isn't a fun review. It's a very boring, dull review, a lot like The Lodge. But I hope you guys, if you guys feel like this review is somewhat alike to what you thought of this review film, go ahead and give it a like. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and give it a share. And most importantly, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, I don't know. We're nearing the end of May, and I don't think there's any other movies scheduled to release until mid-July with Tenet, which is when hopefully, assuming that the pandemic is subsiding a little bit, when the movie theaters are going to start opening back up. If it's not, then I don't see Tenet coming out then. But that is technically the next scheduled release is mid-July for Tenet. So we'll see if that comes out. I'll be looking to do some more things on the channel, bring the Movie Crusaders on. We'll have some topic discussions. Maybe we'll do some video essays on certain films. If you guys want us to discuss certain films, feel free to leave them in the comments below or on any of the social media outlets, and we will try to get something together for you guys so you guys have some videos to check out on Sean's Movie Crusades. But until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.